Um, Not really, but I got some audio experts that's gonna help me funnel that out.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna try to kick it back. How's that? As far
That's
as can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I'm trying to run the mic so that it's not so hot.
Okay. So I gotta ask, man. So how many people do you got working for you?
Currently, not enough.
Okay.
I got one, two, three, four, five. I have approximately 8 people right now between two locations.
Okay. And you're in Gary, right?
Yeah, Gary, Indiana. I got one location in Gary, Indiana, and then I got another location in Oakland, Illinois, and then we got another location going up in south side of Chicago.
Okay. So you're just expanding slowly but surely.
Yeah, yeah. That location has been ready to open since July
That's
of 2020, but I haven't been able to open it because I haven't found time. So I'm literally paying lease on a location that I ain't sold nothing out of.
that's crazy. And 2020 is just 2020 was an animal for everybody, and now I mean, due to new constraints, everyone had to find a way to pivot, and I see that you found your way to pivot throughout all of this.
You know what? I can't take. So this is the thing. I can't take claim for it. I'm a very uh, I'm a believer in God, right?
Hmm.
And I think God does everything for a reason. This was seed that I had been planting for about a year and a half prior to 2020, you know,
Hmm.
and it's just that things happened that it prospered at the right time. It's almost like I don't know how familiar you are with the Bible, but it's the almost like the story of Joshua,
Okay.
where he had the king had the dream and he had them prep the fields and things like that, and all of a sudden, in the time of famine, um, the land of Egypt was prosperous. So that's pretty much kind of where how I see it. It was one of those things that in the time that I was trying to that I took over the business,
Hmm.
I was planting seed. I knew that the internet was going to be the route to go. That's going to be the route that got me over the hurdle. And man, one thing happened after another. I cannot attest it to any brilliance of mine.
Okay. So this was a family-owned business that was handed down to you.
Well, no, it wasn't. Actually, two of my best friends that I grew up with started the business in 2008.
Okay.
And they always said, they always made the claim that it was recession proof because they started it at the beginning of a recession. 2008 was when, the what was it, the housing crisis and all of that, and we had that little mini recession.
Hmm.
They started the popcorn business, and then in 2013 they started talking to me about coming on board because they wanted to grow the business, and they were trying to figure out, what was wrong with it. So they brought me in, and we opened up the Oak Lawn location in 2014.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
I gotta say that I I don't know about you, but zooming with the homies got me through a lot of mental constraints in 2020. And I kept hearing, Tahir give you a shout out. And I'm like, I hear people calling you LeBron and all this other stuff. I'm like, I could have swore he said his name was Lebarron. And
Right.
everyone's talking about popcorn world. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna give him a try, and I placed a couple of orders, man. And I was going to have to hit Tier up on Instagram and say, "Hey, man, you're right. You ain't got to pay me back because the popcorn's good."
Okay.
So I finally got a chance to shoot a video when I got a fresh box, and and now I'm paying for it because my sister saw the video and she's like, "I didn't get no popcorn." So she took what I had. Now I got to replace everything I just bought.
Yeah. Hey, it's a good thing for me.
Most definitely, most definitely. So, the goal of my show is to give people who have companies or a product to, speak about not only them but what they're doing, how they got there, and I like to spread the word to anybody that's out here doing something. So, Tahir spoke so highly of you that I was like, I'm gonna reach out and I'm gonna see if I can actually get him on. I was actually surprised you responded. I figured you would have been way too busy to respond to a DM, to be honest.
You know what? I try to. This is the thing. I try to build from the ground up. Everything grows from the ground up. A lot of people tend to aim at the top, the high fruit. But usually the ripest fruit is right there. On the lower level. So I I try to be accessible as much as possible. Because there's a lot more people that are reachable to me than there are people that are unreachable. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times when you get people that don't have time for the DMs, that's because they're like only looking at the the high volume DMs. So I try to stay on top of mine. That's what got me this far. So if something ain't broke, don't fix it.
Hey, you ain't never lied about that. So I'm going to get into this introduction, and I'm going to bring you in and just have you introduce yourself a little bit to my audience. All right.
Okay, give me one moment.
All right.
I left it right here in this cabinet. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So you ready?
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, the Land of Legend, aka Big T, and this is another episode of the I Can't Make This Up podcast. I'm honored to have my next guest here today on the show with me. I heard about him while watching the show, Zooming with the Homies, and to hear more, kept shouting him out and boastering about his company, Popcorn World. And when I checked it out, I found out that the product is phenomenal. And only proof of that is this guy right here. Uh, he is a public speaker, college graduate, CEO, a man of faith, tech guru, and he's giving Over Redenbacher a run for his money. I want you to give it up for my next guest, Lebarron Burton, people.
Uh, man, thank you. Now I feel special.
Well, when I did my research on you, I was surprised to see how much stuff you had your hands in, and now I see where the the allure comes from because you got a very extensive background when it comes to education and business. And talking to you a little bit, I see why you're the man, the myth, the legend.
Oh wow, man! Now you're leaving me speechless. I've never been described as that.
I mean, hey, when you're doing everything right and you stand on your path, you gain a reputation without trying, and you deserve the accolades, man. So, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience right quick for me?
So I am the Baron Burton. I am a father, husband. I am the owner of Popcorn World, the world's largest popcorn store, where we make over 250 flavors of gourmet corn. We got two different types of corn. We have a savory, which is anything from crab leg to dill pickle to loaded baked potato, all the way to our gourmets, hand coated in a fine chocolate and hand coated in other premium ingredients. Things like our candy bars are coated and the actual candy bar is steak. We got Oreo cheesecake coated in natural Oreos, banana pudding coated in real vanilla wafers. We just premium product, and we try to we've established our business on good customer service and quality of product.
So you were telling me that originally this was a business you had handed down to you from two partners of yours. It was always called Popcorn World, and then you built it up to where it is now.
No, so it was previously called Popcorn Haven. Okay,
Okay.
They started off as Popcorn Haven, and they started off with actually, I believe it was 25 flavors. And my buddies, they're two twins, and been known to be extremists, and I'm a little bit of one myself. So 25 flavors, it was like always something that we got to set ourselves apart from everyone else. So once they came up with the process that we come up to code our flavors, it's pretty much, we can virtually do 80% of what people say we can do it on popcorn. And it just comes down to the process. Um, they started it in 2008. And 2013, they came to me because they were like, hey, if you ain't made $1 billion yet and we've made $1 million, you need to come on board with us. So, you know, being a business person, I saw the opportunity and I seized it. So I signed on with them, helped them find out what was wrong with the business. And what had initially happened is they had diluted the business model because they started off in Georgia. They had about 12 locations in Georgia. And then they had about 20 something locations with all their licensees. But the problem was the licensees came under different names. So essentially you got a diluted business model because you're basically, you're creating competitors. So it took a little bit of arm bending to get them to understand that. Then what happened, we were in Food Network magazine in 2015. And someone contacted me out of New York, the marketing company, and said, hey, can you provide us with your Italian sausage popcorn? Now, that's not, we got a list of 480 flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Italian sausage probably sits at the bottom end of our list of flavors that we would recommend. But for some odd reason, they wanted it. Me being who I am, instead of sending them that flavor, I sent them that flavor plus about 20 other flavors. Come about 5 days later, they were like, hey, thank you for all the popcorn, but we got a lot of these flavors already. So now we're scratching our head like, how do they have these flavors, So the article came out in Food Network magazine in May of 2015. And come to find out, our licensees were getting credit for all of our top flavors. So our company, essentially, the top 10 of the top 25 flavors that they chose across the country were ours under the different brand names.
Okay.
So that's when it was a realization, this is a problem. We were going to have to rebrand. So 2016, we made the big jump. We rebrand, retooled, got our own packaging done, and they decided to retool in Vegas, which I didn't want to do, but they wanted to do it. So we went to Vegas, opened 3 locations in Vegas, and that was a little bit of a nightmare for the simple fact that it's hard to manage a staff from that far away. So every 2 to 3 weeks, you're flying out there, and we had a house out there, and it just was a lot, So they had started a ministry down in Atlanta, and they decided like, hey, you know what? We can't do both. If you take the business with all the debt, you can have the business, and you just cut us in if you decide to sell it. And that's how I took over it in 2018. So at that point, 2018, I'm a guy with bad credit, not a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking over this business. And I just basically decided that, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to need the internet to bail me out, because it was easier for me to sell on the internet than it would be to draw customers into the store. And I had been trying to get them to do that previously. So I started doing that, and it got rough. It got real rough. 2018 was really rough. Got about 4 months behind on lease. I had a cool landlord, right? So the landlord is like, hey, I'm trying to work with you, whatever. 2019 rolls around, and I get a customer that walks into the store. Now, my wife had just put in our last $7,000. We're like, you know what? We're going to put this in here because we really, one of the hardest things that our owner with integrity is to walk up to employees and tell them today is their last day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what got us to put that last $7,000 in. The very next day, a customer comes in and she comes in, she's just asking me all types of questions. How's the business doing? Things like that. And, I was like, now, what I didn't tell you was when we did the rebrand, we did a location change. So we were booming, prior to me taking over.
Mm-hmm.
But when we rebrand, we decided to do a location change. That was like one of the dumbest moves that we could have made because now all of our original customers think that we closed. All right. And then this new shop pops up down the street that most people are hesitant to try something new because they've already got their brain fixed on one thing. So they don't want to try this new guy. So we essentially were the new guys. So that I was suffering through that, at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the customers came in and she was asking me 50 million questions. And I'm like, why is this lady, drilling me? So she goes, so are you, so I said, well, she said, how are you doing? I said, well, just pray for us because I just put in my last bit of cash. If it doesn't pick up by the beginning of the year, I'm going to have to do something else. And she goes, well, give me your number because I'm thinking about investing. Now, I get this at least 5 times a day, every day, right? Somebody saying that they want to do a franchise or something like that. So I get kind of numb to that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
A week goes by. My wife and I were feeding the football team because my son plays football. So we're feeding the football team. And I get a phone call. Hey, Mr. Burton, this is, she told me her name is Duchess. She said, this is Mrs. Duchess, and I spoke to you last week. I need to meet with you and your wife, about the terms of this investment. And, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm still not taking it serious. So the next day rolls around. We come in there, and she goes, what do you need? And I'm still a little shocked. She goes, what do you need? She goes, let me tell you this. She goes, I had a dream that I was growing popcorn. So the reason that I came in there that day was because God had already given me the dream that I was growing popcorn. And I was just waiting for you to say the right thing. So she says, you guys give me the terms. This is the thing. I'm going to give you, I think it was $25,000 loan on this place. And she goes, you mentioned opening another place in Gary. Now, up to that point, every time I told somebody that I wanted to open a location in Gary, they looked at me like I was growing a second head because it's Gary, Indiana, right? How are you going, you can't do a good business in Oak Lawn. How are you going to do it in Gary?
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I'm going to give you 35 for the Gary location. And she goes, the only thing is you got to cut me in as a partner on that location. So I'm like, okay, so what do you want? She goes, it's not about what I want. You and your wife give me the terms and I'll give you the check. That was on a Saturday. By the next Tuesday, she had written a check for 50 grand. So we, by November 9th of 2019, we had the Gary location open. The Gary location has been the most successful location that we've had in the history of doing popcorn. We averaged, before the pandemic, we were averaging about 120, 130 customers per day. So in our line of business, that's decent. That's nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from there, the internet popularity has started picking up at the same time. So when they announced that we were in the pandemic, I actually closed because I needed a break.
Mm-hmm.
So I closed for like a month and I did the dumbest thing. I forwarded the phone to my cell phone. And my cell phone, my wife, her birthday is in March 19th, and she had mentioned that she wanted the bedroom done. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a breather. We're going to shut down, and I'm going to redo the bedroom, right? The entire time that I was doing that, I was getting notifications, voicemail, messages off the internet. And people were actually irate that we closed.
Mm.
You know, so we were closed for about 2 weeks. And I got tired of my employees. Their unemployment was getting held up. So I was like, you know what, we're going to go ahead and open up. We built the glass screens and everything. We went ahead and reopened. And from by that time to here, I had did a shout out on Twitter, and Tahir responded, because I actually did a shout out to Tahir and Kev.
Okay.
Tahir was the one that responded, and I was like, hey, you know, can I send you some popcorn? So I had sent him some popcorn, and at that time, a wrestler, I think his name is Xavier McDaniels.
Okay.
He had gotten the popcorn because someone else. I'm real big in the tech community, so a lot of the tech influencers, I've kind of grown my popularity in that community. So one of them had shouted out to him, so he did a 30-second video saying that we were the greatest popcorn in the world. That brought us about 150 sales. Boom, right off the door. So I'm like, oh man, this is nice. So then Tahir, he gets the popcorn, he DMs me, he's like, man, this is the greatest popcorn that I've had. You know, he's like, man, this is some great product. And he said, I did you a video. And he shot me, you know, he sent me the video, and he had did like a whole minute spot of him, you know, promoting the popcorn. And I put that on Facebook. I put it, through my little Facebook cash behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happy. I was good. We were getting like 10, 20 orders a day. So for me, that's great. We went from doing 10,000 maybe in a year to like doing, several hundred per day. So then I'm like, okay, good. And then Tahir, he kept, he sent me his number and everything. And, everything was good. He called me and said, hey, I want to have you on the show. Because at that time, I wasn't really big on the comedian, set.
Mm-hmm.
So I started following him out of respect for what he did. And then I just got kind of caught up in the whole Zooming with the homies. And I saw what he was trying to do. So I'm like, man, I got to support this guy whatever way I can. Now, grant you, I couldn't afford it. My wife was looking at me like I was crazy. Because, I was putting those not super chats, but those cash apps out there.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happened after about the second week that I was doing it, I noticed that everybody kept saying my name, and then Tahir kept saying my name. So every night he did that, I would get another order, 2, 3, 4, 5, So I'm like, okay, at least we're not breaking our bank, we're at least making that money back. We're breaking even.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I'm taking my son to school, and I got the little Apple Watch here, and this thing was going off. I got an order. Boom. Every order I get comes right here. I got an order. I'm like, oh, got another order. Then all of a sudden, I started getting an order and someone adding on Instagram. An order, somebody adding me on Instagram. An order, somebody adding on Instagram. And I looked at it, and it came down to like an order every 3 minutes. And now I'm trying to figure out, now I'm scrambling, right? Because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm rushing. I'm dropping my son off, and I'm rushing back to the shop. And I'm like, something happened. I don't know what. Something has happened on the internet, but we're getting like a ton of orders. So we're looking at it, and we're trying to scramble to set everything up. Then I thought about it. So I called Tahir. I said, hey, did you happen to do anything on the internet? Because I'm like getting a lot of traffic. And he goes, oh, yeah, we shot the Squadcast video, and it uploaded today. He goes, that usually gets viewed about 97,000 times, on the first day. Man, when I tell you we had a order every 3 minutes for an entire 24 hours.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
I think we did about 80 something thousand that day in
That's
one day.
that's what's up, man. Like when I seen them talking about it, and to hear saying that he had those samples for Kevin, I was like, Kevin has a great platform, and to hear growing his, and the fact that it reached all depth. And then I'm going through my stories. Everyone I follow is unboxing your popcorn, and I'm like, man, I need to tell somebody about this because I can't be the only one that knows. And then I'm asking like radio personalities that I contact. I'm like, you ever heard of popcorn word? They're like, no. I'm like, all right, I gotta put somebody else on. So when I decided to reach out to you, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to get you some exposure because, you're a black owned business and you got crazy work ethic and you're a supporter of people who's looking to do the same. So, it was just like it was meant to be for me to have you on the show today. And again, I appreciate you coming in. Like, I mean, I'm looking at you right now. You sitting at your desk, you in a mask, and you working on a Sunday, making it happen. And at the same time, you're doing the interview with me. So I take my hat off to you in all aspects.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, man, this is all. I'm in business, not money, right? If I wanted to go make money, I could go work for somebody and just make a nice salary for me and my family. I'm doing this number one to break the stereotypes that black business, can't be done on a higher level. Not only that, number two, oftentimes we're not on the other side of the desk, right? So when there's guys that come from our communities that have been hit with situations, they get treated like a sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is like a real pet peeve of mine. So I'm not one to wait for, you see what's happening at the White House, and, I'm not one to wait for them because their process takes too long, For every life that we lose, every, situation that goes bad, why am I going to wait for the bureaucracy when I can take things into my own hands, And everything that we do, the popcorn is not the only thing that we do. Like my $1 billion baby is going to be dropped probably at the end of this month.
Okay.
Which is a major. That's going to really, really put things on another platform. I'm the president of a not-for-profit child care center where my wife is the executive director, and we're the largest child care center in Northwest Indiana. And we're looking to bring that to the Gary area where we're going to be looking to build a 30 to 40,000 square foot building where we can train people of the urban community, the black community, in technology, doing things like this, setups like this, with podcasts, all the things that we have been deprived of within our communities, providing our kids that opportunity and not having to go to school and spend $300,000, to go work for someone else. So this is the reason why I do this ultimately.
Well, that's incredible, man. I heard about Tahir boasting about you being an expert when it comes to tech. I see you into DeVry for computer science, and you went to Indiana U for business management. So tech, technical. You have expertise in when it comes to like new generation techs and things like that. So this just falls into I guess your wheelhouse when it comes to expanding the business. Like apparently you about to change the game with what you about to drop.
Oh yeah. I grew up in church, and a church being a non-for-profit. Our child care center is a non-for-profit. I got 5 kids, and I volunteer on the PTAs And it seems like every single time you get involved with a non-for-profit, you're always discussing, right? How do we raise funds? That's always the discussion. And that ends up being the discussion for so long that your ultimate agenda never gets across. The reason that you even exist gets challenged because you don't have the funds to do it. And as someone that I didn't come from second generation money or anything like that. You know, I think I'm going to coin the term birth from dirt because that's pretty much where we're coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have nothing. I'm that seed that somebody planted, right? So with that being said, my entry into the business market, I left the workplace when my second daughter was born. The day that she was born was the last day I ever punched the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I got 5 kids, and she's standing right here. She's what? How old are you? 17. 17 in a month, in 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's 17 now, and some things happened at that time. I left the workplace because I had a business plan for social networking. And at that time, we were shopping it around, empowerment zones, and the Black community just didn't get it. And that was my realization that we are so behind when it comes to technology that, you know, us getting things off the ground was going to be a challenge. It was always going to have to be that founder. And, you know, like Apple is a founding company. You know, HP is a founding company. In the Black community, we don't have any founding companies in those technologies. So at that time, my business idea didn't get off the ground, didn't get funded. People couldn't see how a free website would make money, right? And even at that time, that business plan to date is probably 2 years more advanced than what Facebook. If Facebook had been created in the mindset of what that was, they would have never got in trouble for what they, you know, the troubles they have with selling data and things like that, because they would have been able to make their money an entirely different way and probably be 3-4 times more valuable than what they are right now.
Really?
So, you know, when that didn't go through, of course, you go through your kind of like internal kind of like depressions because it's like, okay, these guys have arrived, so this can't happen, right?
Mm.
And God just gave me the idea of a fundraising solution for not-for-profits. And pretty much, basically what I did was piece everything together that works within fundraising and alleviated everything that doesn't work. You know, so in the schooling system, what's the main problem that they have? They have a problem of parents' participation. The other thing is no one wants to do door-to-door sales. We don't even have an environment to do door-to-door sales anymore. So basically what School Bids is and that's where I came up with the School Bids. And what it is a fundraising solution for not-for-profits for school systems where your average basketball coach can sign up, and we essentially take something as simple as a pair of $250 AirPod Pros, and that device generates $2,500. If that school, and it's the lowest unique bid auction. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever seen a 50-50 raffles.
Yeah, I have.
Essentially what it is almost the equivalent of a 50-50 raffle, okay? But it's done in a bid format. So, and it's called a lowest unique bid. So we'll take a $250 pair of AirPods, okay? We'll post them on the site. And what has to happen is, say your school sends everyone to the site. It costs everyone $10 to place a bid. And the person that gets the lowest unrepeated bid is the one who wins the auction. Okay? So that's a 250 bid auction. So after 250 bids have been placed, whoever has the lowest unrepeated bid, they receive the AirPod Pro.
Okay.
And it's all in an automated process. So it sounds a little bit more complicated than what it really is.
I mean, I followed most of the steps, but I'm pretty sure the website will help walk you through any type of help you would need to make those things happen.
Oh yeah. And it's like I wasn't even prepared to talk about it. So you're like probably one of the early people to even hear about it. And it's only because I found two programmers in Ghana. So when I say this is all done from inception for us, by us, that FUBU rule,
Mm-hmm.
I got two programmers in Ghana. Ghana is, a lot of people don't realize Ghana and Nigeria are becoming technology hubs. Okay. And I got two programmers that believe in the vision. They, in March, right around the time the pandemic hit, contacted them. We had a discussion. They jumped on board and started programming out the gate. Boom. So once this hits and shows that it's doable, taking I'm taking a trip out to Ghana and setting up shop.
That's dope.
And I'm gonna do like other communities, because when I was doing technical consulting, I found out that a lot of these Indians, Western Indians, what they're doing is they're creating farming systems. So a lot of the programming and stuff is getting done overseas. They got a farming system. You got some 15-year-old, right, doing work to earn money toward a work visa so that he can come over here and get a medical degree. So I'm like, why can't we do this for our community? So why not go over to Ghana, create the opportunities over there, right? Because their cost of living is, the cost of living in Gary is cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And Ghana is probably a third of what our cost of living is, right? So go back to Ghana, equip them with a work visa so they can come back and teach our people coding and and things like that.
Not everyone has the knowledge and know-how to do the research as far as to find those sources, because there's genius everywhere in all walks of life. So I mean, just hearing you speak about it making me think like, hey, it might be somebody over there that could help me improve my show and get me to the next level.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, like you go to Silicon Valley and you might find nine times out of 10, you're going to find a 17, 18-year-old millionaire. How often you see that in the hood? But it's commonplace in Silicon Valley. So instead of me looking at what they got, my whole rule of thumb in business philosophy is planting our seed and creating it for ourselves. Because the grass ain't always greener on the other side.
Say that louder for the people in the back.
It ain't. The grass is not greener on the other side. At least when you plant that seed yourself, you know exactly what you got.
You're right. So let me ask you this: what created your passion for tech?
Just, man. Ever since I've known, I love tech. Ever since Windows, because I'm 45.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in that generation that was probably saw the end of analog and the beginning of digital. So by the time, I would say, but by the time sixth grade came around, we had the computers inside the classroom, and we were playing, what was it? I can't think of the game. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? It was one of the games. And I think it was Ozark Trails or something like that we used to play, and I was just always gravitated toward the computers at the time, and for me, anything technology wise, I was always on top of it. It's like when it came down to audio, video, I'm a audio foul, I'm a video foul. my buddies that turned the business over to me, we used to install home theaters on the side, you know. So I just always been a tech junkie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about a couple of your companies. Burton Equity Group.
Okay.
What's that? What is that exactly?
So Burton Equity Group is the parent company that I'm doing all of this under. So
Okay.
Popcorn World, School Bids, all of it will uh,
Umbrella.
umbrella by Burton Equity Group.
Okay. And Burton Media falls under that. What exactly does that part of the business do?
So Burton Media has always been um, Burton Media has always been like I do photography, things like that, and like my daughter, she's real heavy into photography now. My oldest daughter, so I'm hoping that she's taken that whole photography thing and ran with it. So she has her own company, Mahogany Lens. You know, so she's in school right now. I'm hoping to bring all of that in under Burton Media because I can do some things with my connections and things. I can do animations and things like that, web development, you know, all the stuff that I've learned through the processes. Burton Media is set up to in-house all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've been looking for a source for animation for a while now, and I definitely got to pick your brain about that. So we could talk about that a little later.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Okay. So what is All Things Holy?
Okay, so All Things Holy was the original um, social media development that me being a church kid,
Hmm.
I was trying to create a platform at the time that was kind of like uh, Christian, based, social media, things like that. And music wise, I'm a musician, I play bass.
Okay.
I grew up in church. Everybody in my family either sing or play. And I can't sing to save my life, so I had to play something, you know. So one of the things in the music industry uh, is the cost to the cost to get your music out there. So one of the big plays that I was doing with that is so that the average musician can come out, up almost like SoundCloud.
Hmm.
And instead of us taking the money, this is my theory, and one of my business mentors always told me, you can never undercut free. Google is who it is because it was free,
Hmm.
right? So basically, on this site, you would be able to upload your music and everything, right? Sell it, push your music, and we would take pennies on the dollar instead of the other way around. Like everybody else wants like a 30% cut of what you're doing, and to me that's like being a pimp,
Hmm.
because it's digital. Once you build a digital platform, other than the cost to keep that platform up and going, it doesn't cost 30% of all the revenue that comes in. To me, that's just greed, right? But if I got a platform where everyone is making a higher profit and I'm taking pennies on the dollar, I'd rather go that Walmart strategy and take the volume of the pennies to get me to where I want to go, because it's more, to me, it's a more solid foundation of a business model. So that's what All Things Holy was. It never really got off the ground because of the whole way that social media grew, with Facebook. So once Facebook hit, I knew I had to come another way.
Okay. Well, I gotta ask, man. When is your book coming out? Because I think that uh, your walk in life and your way of thinking doesn't need to be just by heard by just by a few amount of people. I think that a lot of people could benefit from listening to your teachings and your experiences and the way you you go about things, because not everyone has that discipline or that fortitude. Because I'm listening to your story, and from the outside looking in, a lot of people wouldn't understand what it took to get to where you are. And I think that you putting something out there would be dope, and I want to be one of the first buyers.
You know what? You're the second person that told me that lately, and I think eventually it's going to be coming. I'm right now. I'm in the mindset that I need a little bit more proof of concept. Because we get a lot of talkers. I'm on that. I'm on Clubhouse, right?
Okay.
And you get a lot of people just, they talk, and they sell you a pipe dream or whatever else. So me, I want to get to a certain level, right, where what I'm saying is totally proven. It's not undisputable, at that point. Then I will be ready to ink it and put it out there. Especially the whole school bids thing and the whole what I'm doing, what we're going to do with the child care center and what we're going to do for the community of Gary. That's what I want to document. Because for me, it does not take a rocket scientist to improve a community. You know, they make it seem like it's just takes some type of economic scientist to improve communities like Flint and Detroit and Gary, Indiana, some of these Inglewood and some of these communities in the south side of Chicago. It doesn't. It doesn't. The only way you're going to really improve a community and the best way you're going to do it is from it within. What's the problem with most hoods? The problem with most hoods is most people in those hoods want out, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get somewhere else. They look at the hood as a prison, okay? And if we could change that mindset, right? Everybody's looking for their 40 acres and a mule when we really got the 40 acres, because that very area, that land, we can take ownership of that land. You take all the cities, the blighted cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to the city bank, real estate roads, they've got tons of properties, pennies on a dollar. Problem is, the people within that community don't want it because they've lost faith in the community and the ability for the community to be anything. And for me, I'm like, we are the community. The community is nothing without the people that reside in it. So there's a couple of things that we're looking to do, like something as simple as this. We've got a not-for-profit child care center, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got families. Most of our families are, I would say, my wife would have to clarify these numbers. I'm not sure. But I think 80% or more of our families are on government assistance. So we know who needs help, right? And something as simple as us going out and buying a property, fixing that property up, okay, and keeping it within the means of say $50,000, $60,000. And then I come to you and say, hey, the same Section 8 money that you're spending, right, to this white guy that lives all the way in Naperville, Illinois, or these well-to-do communities that you're sending that money to, I tell you what, give us that money, and we're going to give you a stature of things that we need you to do to improve your life, financial literacy, things like that, okay? 5 years from now, this house will be yours. We're going to gift this house to you. If you do everything in the criteria, we're going to gift this house and turn it over to you. And you'll have ownership in 5 years. We do that enough times within the same, because a person that owns their property, they're different than the person that's renting a property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because when you step out in your yard and you see paper in the yard, that's your yard now. So you know what? Hey, don't drop this in my grass. Hey, I don't need you standing in front of my house. You see what I'm saying? The conversation changes. Now your neighbor becomes your neighbor. So now it's two of you saying, hey, I don't like what he's doing on this block. You know, we need to move him along. That type of mentality, right? That doesn't happen in our communities because I don't own this building. The man that owns the building don't care about it. Why should I care about it? I'm just trying to get to my next destination. I'm not going to be here long anyway. That's the mentality that is haunting our community. So with that business model and that business strategy, something as simple as a child care center, right?
Mm-hmm.
Starting young. Now we're helping the children because we're going to feed them that technology. We get them at 2 months, they leave us and go straight to the first grade. So they're going to get that technology, right? We're going to make sure that they get that foundation that they need. Now that we're expanding, we're bringing them back. Instead of putting a basketball and a football in their hand so that they can be a slave to another organization, because that's a whole nother discussion, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can, we can put the ability for them to have their own trades, okay, and make money. Like right now, you said you needed animations, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't care that it's a 13-year-old that's doing your bomb animation. All you care is that the animations are nice, right?
Yes, sir.
If I take a 13-year-old and say, man, 30 minutes of this or your time can get you $100. It ain't nothing nobody can tell that 13-year-old. You mean to tell me I can do something that I enjoy doing and it's going to make me how much? Guess what? The animation that he sell you is not going to be as good as the next animation because now, he's just going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's all they're doing in Silicon Valley. That's it. That's all they're doing. These guys know that this can make me this type of money. The only thing our community has been fed is that your voice, your ability to rap, catch a ball, or put a ball. And don't get me wrong, I love sports. My second oldest, she's the leader of her team right now. And she balling out. But that's not going to be all that defines her. She's classically trained. She's playing the stand-up bass. So, that's what I want. That's what I'm trying to bring to the community. That's what I'm doing. That's ultimately what drives all of this. Popcorn World is just a piece, just a tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. A lot of people don't know, that tip is on top of a large mass that sits under a large body that's underneath the water. So, I had a local artist on not too long ago, and we were discussing not being a one-trick pony. She was saying that, yes, I am an MC, but I'm also a songwriter. I'm also a marketer. I'm also she builds websites and things like that. Like, she has many skills. So, when she couldn't perform live on stage, she went to the next thing. The next thing she got in her folder of tricks, and all those are things that people need to understand. Like, if you're good at something, that's great, but you got to think about when stuff like a pandemic hits. When comedians couldn't perform on stage, what did they do? They moved to the internet.
Right.
And they developed other skills. You know what I'm saying? So giving people the knowledge and the information on how to grow, not just as a performer, but as a person, and to pass that along is what needs to happen. Everyone, say I got mines, and then they close the door and keep going.
Right.
Crack it open, and don't forget to pass that book along, just like you did when you was in school. You know what I'm saying? Everyone signed that book and said, I got mines, here go yours,
Right. Right. Exactly. And I was so proud of I was so proud of the comedians. Like Kev, what he's doing, man, I can't tell you how excited I am for what he's doing, right? And not only that, prior to the pandemic, there was always this stigma that, those that use the internet, they weren't real comedians, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now you can see the respect that a lot of what they call the OGs have now for the guys that conquered the internet. Because now what? They're forced, that's how they got to go get their money. So for me, I look at the pandemic. I think I made a post on Facebook at the beginning of the pandemic and said, for everyone that says 2020 was the worst year of their life, stay away from me because I don't want to be there when God proves you wrong or proves you right.
Yeah.
All right. And that's because, right, to me, things like that, the pandemic can be a blessing in disguise. Because let's face it, we had something that slowed us down. There's a lot of people prior to the pandemic didn't realize they had some of the talent that they have now. Because what were we? We were a run society. Boom, 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 go get it, go get it. And we never sat in one place long enough to figure out what we were really capable of doing. We were just going, with the flow. I think Kel said himself, he don't even know if he's going back, if he looking to do another tour after the pandemic, right? Because it's like now his eyes is open to what can be done and what really is out there. I had a chance to speak with Barry Brewer, and because he came out to the stop and then he came back out because I introduced him to the senator out here in Indiana. And we were discussing some things, and it's like this pandemic has opened everyone's eyes up to look. I can't depend on this one way of life, So you got people, that are looking to open up production studios, things of that nature. That's what I love to see in our community because we weren't having those conversations before. We weren't having those. We were always suppressed to what someone was going to allow us to do, right? But the pandemic puts you in that survival mode that, hey, I got to go do it, and that's what I end up appreciating, for that fact. I'm sorry for those that lost loved ones and things like that, but at the same time, there's some good to come out of 2020. A lot of,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Kev, he hit it right on the head when he said 2020 was the best worst thing to happen to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I lost a lot, but I quit smoking cigarettes in 2020. I started my podcast in 2020. I started my clothing line in 2020, so a lot of things that I just was thinking about and putting off, I made happen during that slowdown, and I'm gonna give you a little insight. Righteous and Ratchet, you was familiar with that podcast?
Yeah.
They inspired me to start my podcast. Like 5 years ago, I was working for FedEx, and I realized what my boss was making compared to what I was making, and I told myself I never want to make somebody else rich again. And I kept telling myself I want to do something independently. I just don't know what it is yet. And then I found their podcast on YouTube, and I said, "That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do." And then I kept, putting the pieces together exactly how I wanted to do it. And then last year, when March 16th hit and everything got shut down, I went into planning mode. Okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? What am I going to call it? And then in June of last year, I started buying equipment. I started buying microphones. I started, hitting up people to do interviews, and then here I have it today. I can't make this up, So I always, try to support him and, everyone in the All That family that, made me laugh and gave me inspiration to keep going. Like Tahir was a big one. Watching him grow, zooming with the homies,
Yep.
wording is hard. And now him and Farron's podcast